Ooh. How's everybody doing? Well, first, before I begin, I just want to say happy birthday, Tori. December 14th, which was a couple of minutes ago, was your birthday. Congratulations. This year, you're going to rock. You're going to rock. Here, boom, boom, boom. I have a gift for you when I come up there in January. My brother Bruce, trust your older brother. I know what I'm doing. But happy birthday, Tori. You're going to have a fantastic year. Okay. Now let's talk about part two of the birth chart and understanding the birth chart and what it means to have a birth chart. I mentioned that the birth chart is a blueprint, a contract that you made with the creator and, and yourself into wanting to jump in to the experience of being human in carbon-based matter in a solar system that's under the auspices of a demiurge, Jehovah. And he comes in many names. So I'm discussing all the kinds of trials and tribulations and a few mustard seed of joy that you're going to experience in a particular incarnation. And I'm going to explain this in graphic detail. Part of my Christmas gift to my subscribers. I want you to know yourself. I want you to understand, and not just understand, but also connect. Also connect to the divinity of you, the divine part of you. And for that, you're going to need self-knowledge. And that self-knowledge has to be directed. So I'm going to be the shaman astrologer that's going to, for the first time, because no other astrologer has done this or is doing this currently, I'll be the first to do it, to actually bring it out there and graphic detail explain to you the real nitty-gritty shit about a birth chart and how you can use it to advance not just your own lower self, but also the higher self, and even direct the course of the destiny of the next incarnation. All of that can be done if you have the knowledge of what a birth chart is. So I have finished with the first house, but I'm going to do a recap of the first house. Again, think of yourself when God says, you are going to be born human. No, 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 I don't want to be born. Yes, you will, especially if you have karma to pay, like myself. I was born on the 19th. The 13, 14, 16, 19, those are the karmic numbers. If you're born under those numbers, you're here to go to a certain degree of suffering and be redeemed and expunge the karma. I'm one of those people, which is why I am a healer, you know? I wanted to be a successful Broadway actor or soap opera actor, and I got a taste of it, but I didn't get it to full promise because I was born under karma. That karma has to be expunged first before I can proceed to do really what I would like to do according to the desires of the ego and the desires of the heart of the ego. But that can go against the soul's objective for you. That can go against other higher principles. You know, the ego alone doesn't make all the shots. The soul directs the course of the ego. In spite of the ego or an acknowledgement or a knowledge of the ego, whether he knows or not. Okay? And the birth chart details that in graphic, specific detail. Okay. So the first house, imagine you're in a capsule and you're being born through Earth. You're going through the tunnel. That tunnel is, of course, the woman's uterus as you're being given birth, and you break through the tunnel. Proof. You come out of the vagina. Now you're no longer spirit, but now you're carbon matter. Now you're human. Now, From that point on, the moment that you are born, that you're coming out of that placenta, and the doctors cut the umbilical cord, and they slap your, in third world country, they hold you upside down, and they slap your butt, so you can get out the mucus, and then you start to cry. That is the beginning of the ascendant. It sparks the beginning and the course and end result of your destiny. That is on the ascendant. This is deep. It's deep. It even borders on the esoteric astrology, which we're not discussing here because that's a whole other series. Ooh. So, I say that to say that you have now, um, you're entering into this incarnation. You've been given, whether you want to or not. You say, if you want to, then it'll be a good incarnation. If you don't want to, like me, I remember, um, I did not want to come here. I remember myself as a spirit, and they were telling me, you're going to go into that planet. And I was crying. I don't want to go. Because I knew that it was not going to be an easy life. I knew it wasn't going to be. I knew it. And I didn't want to go. But I was bounded by karma to come back here. So I came here to be a servant. The best way to expunge karma in the degree that I've transgressed in other lifetimes. So the birth chart shows all these dynamics. And these are frightening truths, powerful truths. Not many people can handle it. You can be faint of heart and understand this. This can shock people. I've had people that have had meltdowns, breakdown in front of me when I showed them the chart, and I've had to stop right away, and they go clinical, because of things that are happening, things that are going on. You know what I'm saying? So, the birth chart is a blueprint that not just describes you from a soul level, but it does from a spiritual level, personality level, and then the ego level. It defines the structure of the ego and its specificity. All of that falls in the first house, the natural house of Aries. Now, so you're born, you're the baby, okay? Knows nothing, is new, has no experience, has no memory. It's the baby. The ego is non existent in this phase. Now we move to the second house. In the second house, you go through a process of self discovery. It is in the second house that you learn who you are. You discover who you are. Now, you learn who you are and you discover who you are and the ascendant as far as actions that you make. Right actions, wrong actions. Actions that you do on instinct without giving a second thought. All of these things also can define who you are externally from the people looking from the outside in. They're going to say, oh, he's like this, he's like that, based on certain actions that you might make on impulse, which is also part of Aries and part of the ascendant, and also attributed to the planet Mars. In Taurus, we see the same dynamic, but the process is internal, not external, like it is in Aries and on the ascendant. When we reach Taurus, the natural ruler of the second house, now those processes that are seen in Aries externally can be observed internally in Taurus. And the second house is where we develop self worth, self esteem. But the first thing that's developed is self worth. No, I'm sorry. I take it back. It's self esteem. What is self esteem? Let's break down what self esteem means. Self esteem means how you see yourself, what kind of person Do you like yourself? Do you not like yourself? If you like yourself and if you don't like yourself, that's not totally determined by you. It's determined by your environment and what you pick up from your environment. Remember, the ego is still very, very young, almost non-existent. We see the emergence of the ego in Leo, the sign of the narcissist. The spark begins in Taurus, which is the true sign of the narcissist, Narcissus. That mythology belongs to Taurus, not Leo. But Leo is more expository of that mythology, which begins in Taurus of the narcissist. Taurus is a narcissist, but he's very internal about it. You'll never figure it out. And you can never tell. Remember, the opposite of Taurus is Scorpio. So they're not going to reveal that about themselves. But in Leo, he can't help it. He's the sun. So he's going to show that narcissism, which begins as a spark in Taurus. The true mythology of the narcissist, Narcissus in Taurus. But it's expository in Leo. And then it begins to die in Virgo, which is a much more virtuous sign now, and more unassuming and more spiritual than Leo. It is in Virgo that this ego, eccentricity, and narcissism begins to die as we move away from the self to the not self, which begins the cardinality of Libra, the seventh sign of the zodiac. So understand that each sign has an evolutionary process, and so do the houses and the planets that they rule. It's a symphony, it's a harmony, it's beautiful. If you truly understand it, it's a mosaic, a mandala of the human condition from the beginning to the end, from physical to non-physical. The universe truly is a beautiful and masterful design, and so is the human psyche and the human nature. And the birth chart depicts that par excellence. Par excellence. Okay. And if you have understanding of a birth chart and you get a good astrologer that can delineate the birth chart for you, let me tell you, you have reached close to divinity. Because if you get to know who you are, and the younger you find out, the better. I'm 50. To know my birth chart at 50 is great, but it's a little late. Half a century has gone by. But you young people in your 20s, this is the best time for you to invest your money in an astrologer. I will get you the foundations in your state where you can go and find one, and you can learn and get it right. Be prepared to pay money. Be prepared to pay money. Hundreds. It's expensive. But then again, knowledge has no price. It should not have any price, especially today and age. You know? So understand that the internal mechanisms of self-esteem is developed by external factors. All of these are determined by the second house. Now, the second house doesn't rule external factors. That's the third house, the house of Gemini, the environment. But understand that there is what we call an internal environment and an external environment. The internal environment begins in Taurus. The external environment of the personality, the psyche of the personality, begins in Aries, where it is more instinctual, more reactive, no thinking involved. That begins in Taurus. It's earth. Remember, Aries is fire, Taurus is earth. The energies become more grounding. Do you get it? It's earth. It becomes more grounding. The impulses of Aries become consolidated in Taurus. I have to re up. Okay. The energies, the impulse of Aries, as I say, because I don't miss a beat. People say, oh, he's drunk, he's drunk. Yeah, I drunk, but I know my shit and I never miss a beat. The grounding energies begin in Taurus. The impulse and the impetus of Aries is consolidated in Taurus. And that makes Taurus more internal. Taurus is a psychological house, whereas the first house is a non-psychological house. It's more of a reactive house. It's about stimuli coming from without to within. With Taurus, the stimulus comes from within, going outward. And that also means choosing not to let anything out. Taurus, like the opposite polarity, Scorpio, holds things in. Okay? Understand the psychology involved behind each of the signs of the zodiac and the houses and the planets that they rule. The manifestation is not just external, it's also internal. We live in a world of duality. So that duality that we see in nature, it also exists within us. It's all a matrix that builds on itself. And in this, the string theorists are correct about this. So the second house is where we begin to develop a sense of who we are. And that sense of who we are is determined by our external factors. Our parents, our teachers, our neighbors, our friends, our secondary relatives, aunts and uncles, cousins, second cousins, aunts and uncles, and lastly, strangers. They all determine how we are going to view ourselves, how we are going to think about ourselves, and eventually how we are going to value ourselves, which gives rise to self worth. From self esteem, we go to self worth. After all the teachings that you've had in school, from elementary school to junior high school to high school, college, the values given to you by your parents, the shared commonality and value system with your friends, neighbors, society, the race and culture, all of that is a matrix that completes who you are going to be by the time you reach age 30. So understand that the development of your own constitution as far as who you are in society and your value and your place in society is not just determined by you, it's also determined by society and their view of you and their placing of you. All of these determining factors begins in Taurus. And then from Taurus inward, it goes outward. And then we go into the third house, the house of Gemini, the environment, which includes the public at large, like the seventh house. We'll get there in a minute, and the 11th house, another relative house. Now, so you have to understand that all of the houses of the zodiac have different psychological and also empirical functions, and they are all necessary to understand them to get a full understanding psychologically of the human being pertaining to that birth chart. Okay. Now, having said that, Taurus, the second house, if that house is afflicted, you are going to have low self esteem, low self worth, a low value of yourself, and you probably are not going to make a lot of money. The lower the self worth and self esteem, the lower the income. The second house rules money. It rules income and how you generate income, how you are to make money in this incarnation, how you are to spend it, and the periods in which you have it and when you don't. The higher the self-esteem and the self-worth, the higher the income. The lower the self-esteem and the self-worth, the lower the income. Understand that. It is a reciprocal relationship. This defines the second house, a deeply psychological house. Now, that psychology externalizes outward. And now we're entering the third house, the house of Gemini, the environment. Now, let me define for you what I mean by the environment. I'm talking about the neighborhoods, like one block to another block. I'm talking about neighborhoods, Italian neighborhood, black neighborhoods, Irish neighborhoods, a neighborhood where it's a school zone versus a non-school zone, or a neighborhood where you see only churches and you hear bells ringing. Different relative realities within a circle of realities. A matrix, another matrix. You have places where you have hospitals only, or you can go to Rikers Island where all you see is prisons, or Alcatraz in San Francisco. It's all prison. It's a prison community. Or you can go to Elmira, New York, or Austin in New York, another prison community where the entire town lives off the prison system in that community. That's all Gemini. Different realities within a circle of sub-realities. Realities within realities. This defines the Gemini experience. It defines buildings, roads, highways, turnpikes, neighborhoods, crossroads. No, elegba, elegwa. All that is ruled by Gemini. And Gemini is elegba. And Yoruba, the trickster, the color red that you see me wearing. So in the environment, there's also danger. It rules the woods and wicked things that go on in the woods and in the dark and behind closed doors. It rules. If you go to the gym to work out, Gemini, it rules that. It falls under Gemini. It is the neighborhood, it's the environment. If you go to yoga or you go to do Pilates, that's all Gemini. These are different places that you go to outside of your home, which is the fourth house, Cancer, which we're heading next. I'm trying to give you a picture how things build upon each other. Okay? And that it's really holistic. Okay? What I'm giving you is invaluable. And I want you to use this when you do your own birth chart. Of course, understand that it'll be basic. A professional analysis you'll never be able to do on your own. I'm sorry. You're going to have to consult someone like me for the professional part. You know? But I can give you just enough to get you going and get you thinking and get you learning. This is the whole premise for this channel. It's really education, not profit. The profit is the sidebar. The goal is education, which is why I spend so much time in those videos. And I don't appear very frequently because I spend time and energy on these videos. I take this work very seriously. So understand that within realities and sub-realities, Gemini represents all those types of realities and sub-realities. You go to an Italian neighborhood here. If you go to Brooklyn, you go to an Indian neighborhood. Or you go to a Hasidim neighborhood of all Jewish. The ones that dress in black with the hair standing on their sides, Hasidim. You know? And then you have Orthodox, which is what Hasidism is, and then non-Orthodox, or Greek or non-Greek Orthodox. The Italian neighborhoods. The Jamaican neighborhood versus Harlem. Jamaican, Brooklyn, Flatbush. Harlem, or black African American and African American cuisine, Harlem. Every neighborhood has a different vibration and a different expression of the subculture or of the culture which it reflects in its subculture. Gemini and the third house and Mercury represents not only the mainstream culture as we see it from the outside looking in, but also the subculture as well. The dark. Remember, Gemini is Jekyll and Hyde. is the sign of the twins. So it represents both polarities within one pole, positive and a negative within Gemini. And remember, we have the opposite, which is Sagittarius, the polar opposite of Gemini. So we have a couple of dimensions going on with Sagittarius and Gemini, because Gemini represents duality. So anything coming from that sphere will represent a dual nature, whereas Sagittarius seeks to bind it into one whole concrete linear knowledge. So understand that the third house rules brothers and sisters. It rules aunts and uncles, cousins, first cousins, second cousins. It rules the neighborhood, your neighbors. It rules the house next door. And if you live in a building, it rules the apartment next door. It rules language and communication, written communication, oral communication, sign language communication, any kind of communication, non-verbal and verbal. Gemini represents the environment. When you're in your house, that's Cancer. That's the fourth house. The minute you step out of your house and you go out into the street, let's say getting up in the morning and going to work or taking the kids to the school bus and the corner before you go to work, you've entered the third house, the house of Gemini, the environment. Okay? Gemini represents the environment. And it's a mutable earth house. Whereas Taurus is a fixed earth house. And Aries, the first house, the ascendant, is a cardinal house. Most of the activities that will be externalized will occur with Aries, being the cardinal sign. Taurus is going to work behind the scenes, and so will Gemini. The leader in this triad is Aries, which will show his work externally and outwardly, which defines cardinality. Now, the fourth house. The fourth house is the natural house of Cancer. It is a cardinal house, just like Aries. Aries is one side of the angle of the wheel, while Cancer is below another side of the angle. Here we are dealing with the subconscious. That which is not seen. That which is not easily observable. That which is mysterious, hidden, occult, and enigmatic. The fourth house belongs to Cancer and the moon, a cardinal water sign. So, like Aries on the ascendant, this is also a very active house. But the action which is externalized in Aries and Cancer is internal, like Taurus, and it comes across to the emotions because the moon represents the emotions. It pulls the tides of our oceans when there's a full moon or when it's waxing. So the cardinality expressed in Aries, which is externalized, now in Cancer will be expressed internally to the sentiment and sentient feelings. So will the fourth house. So in the fourth house represents the past, memories, not only of your childhood, but also of your past lives. The fourth house rules the immediate past life. What life you led before you became who you are in this life. Now, if we want an accumulation of knowledge of many of your past lives, we have to look towards the 12th house, which we haven't gotten to yet, which represents a consolidation of all of the lives that you've led in one sphere of revolution of the soul. Cancer represents the immediate. So if I want to know what went on before you became who you are today, I have to look towards the fourth house and look at the placing of Cancer and the moon to understand where you picked up, where you left off in the current life, and where you're heading in the next life. This is determined by the fourth house in Cancer. The fourth house also represents the mother experience. What kind of woman was your mother? What kind of woman is your grandmother, your great grandmother? What is the lineage of your mother? Are they good women? Are they bad women? Are they accomplished women? What is the genetic blueprint concerning your mother and the matriarch? All of that is defined by the fourth house. The race, the memory of the race also is in the fourth house. And the culture. It represents distant memories going back towards the day of the Big Bang. Cancer is no joke. It's a cardinal water sign. People sleep on Cancer. Cancer is the basin of everything. The crescent, the cradle crescent. It is Isis, Tiamat, Da, and all the other goddesses on our mythologies of all races and culture combined. Diana, Pele. Cancer is no joke. As much as I love Leo, I gotta respect Cancer. Cancer is the foundation of everything. In fact, now that we're talking about it, let's talk about it. Cancer and the fourth house also symbolizes foundation. But foundation of what? Well, if you're gonna have children, the foundation is developing a race line, a lineage by procreating. That becomes the foundation. But let's say you're a Cancer, you're not interested in having children, and that's not your thing. Well, the Cancer energy of foundation still plays true and holds true if you want to create a business, create a foundation. Mrs. Fields Cookies in New York. Well, it really is based from the South, but I did the chart for Mrs. Fields, the actual person of Mrs. Fields Cookies, Cancer, and she created that as a foundation, and her cookies are known all over the world. So now those cookies are her children. She did not have actual children, but her children was her business. That's no different of the same foundation. If you are a woman that likes to have children, that becomes your foundation. The Donald Trump, look at their children. He has wonderful children. That's a foundation. And I've done Donald Trump's chart. Go to my website, you'll see it. I know this man and his family. And let me tell you, that even though he's a Gemini, there's a lot of Cancer in his chart, which spark and Leo, which spark on the ascendant, which sparks the foundation which he created, which brought him to the White House. Whether it was deceptive or not, because Cancer has a dark side of being evil and deceptive, like all the signs do, especially the cardinal signs. You can't be a mover and shaker and be a saint while you're doing it. Okay? I'm just saying. That's not going to get you to the next level. So, I understand what's going on here with Donald Trump. But it is no different than someone who's overly ambitious. Listen, the J.P. Morgan, the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, and especially, and I got the chart of the Rockefellers, strong Cancer. Strong Cancer. These people are about creating a foundation, which we know today as the Rockefeller Foundation, and on all other subsequent foundations which they have created, which is still influencing the world today. This is the cardinality of Cancer. Establishing a foundation, whether it is the family or a business. It is still the same energy, the same nurturing energy. A man or a woman who doesn't have children but has a company, that company is her child. So the same cardinality is seen outside of the need to procreate to develop a family with a husband and children. We see the same cardinality of emphasis of ambition and greatness also in developing businesses, which is why Cancer is a fantastic business and money making sign. The opposite of Cancer, remember, is Capricorn. Hello? Do you see the dichotomy? You're not going to lose with these two powerful cardinal signs as polar opposites. So Cancer, as a cardinal sign, even though she seems emotional, don't sleep on this bitch. She's just as cardinal as all the rest of them. And will tell you a new one without you knowing. So this powerful essence of cardinality of Cancer is what we see below the wheel. You see here, we see the tears is a symbol of Cancer. Below the wheel, and on top is Capricorn. So and this is a cardinal cross. We're gonna talk about that in a minute. So understand that the cardinal signs interrelate with each other. Aries, Libra, Capricorn, Cancer, Cancer, Capricorn, Libra, Aries, Aries, Libra, and back and forth. We can go back all day doing it. It is a matrix in and of its own. We call this the Cardinal Cross. Here we have what's called the Cardinal Cross. If you were born with any of these signs on the ascendant, your profession will require patience. But are you going to succeed? Absolutely. I was born with a Cardinal Cross. And I have been successful my entire life in anything and in everything I do. I'm confident to the point of arrogance. That's cardinality. We know our shit and we know who we are. And nobody gonna tell us anything different. That's Aries, Libra, Capricorn, Cancer. If you're self-confident and you know your worth, you are a mover and shaker. And you're gonna let nobody from the external dictate to you how to run shit. That's why I don't work for anybody. I create my own businesses because I'm that type of motherfucker that knows and I'm confident enough to rely on my own wits and not deal with the external. That's the essence of cardinality, self-confidence, and knowing that you are doing the right thing. And if you run into problems, you have the strength, knowledge, and fortitude to handle it as it comes to you. Okay, understand what cardinality means. You ain't gonna let nothing stand in your way. And taking no for an and an answer is not an option. Okay? This is the essence of the cardinal signs of Aries, Libra, Cancer, and Capricorn. So dealing with the fourth house, there's indomitable emotional will. And you're going to go through all different 28 moon phases of ups and lows and downs and lows. But in the end, you're going to win. You're going to have the Holy Grail that's going to say, you know what? I went through shit, but I got the Grail. I won. In the end, I'm a winner. That's the essence of cardinality. You're going to fight. Even if it takes your life in the process. Like Martin Luther King, Marcus Garvey, Martin Luther King. Oh, I said that already. What's the other? Malcolm X. And all the greats in history who waged their lives for a cause. This is the essence of cardinality. And that happens from a low gradient to a higher gradient. It depends on your conviction and your desire to effect change. The essence of cardinality. This is Cancer in the fourth house. Who you are and who you feel about yourself, who you are, will determine how people are going to view you and treat you. For example, I have Capricorn in my fourth house. I know I'm a king. And if people treat me badly, I'm like, fuck you, bitch. Fuck you, motherfucker. I know I'm a king. And that will resonate. Quiet dignity. You ain't gonna move me. You ain't gonna shake me. I know who I am. So you ain't gonna win here. That's Capricorn on the fourth house. The devil is in the fourth. Now, I know who I am. You can't shake me. Okay? Whatever sign falls on the fourth house will define your inner constitution as to the basic core of who you are in the inside. What will move you and shake you. Okay? So this is the natural house of Cancer. The fourth house will also determine how you're going to raise your daughters if you are a woman. If you're a man, the fourth house, which is still very feminine, very Cancer, will determine how you're going to relate to the inner feminine within you. How you're going to relate to the inner feminine within you as a man. No? Because the more relational you are with the inner feminine with you, the better you will be with your wife or your girlfriend or any woman that you sleep with or encounter. No? Because we both have masculine and feminine energies within us. What makes a woman attracted to me personally is that they see the inner feminine in me. But they also know that it's balanced with the inner masculine in me. And I'm proficient in both. So that makes me like safe. But I'm also comfortable with my own duality and bisexuality. So that lends towards a spirit that is in total peace with who he is. But that didn't happen overnight. I'm 51 years old. I wasn't like that at 20 years old or 30 years old. Sex, like everything else, evolves over time and matures over time and liberates over time the more you know yourself. No? And to allow yourself to know who you are takes courage. It takes courage because it is an area that we have never been nurtured to discover within ourselves or explore within ourselves. Our own uniqueness. Just to fulfill a role in society and be perfunctory, but never really truly be genuine to ourselves. In the fourth house, those begin to break apart as the phoniness of what we have allowed ourselves to become begins to deteriorate in the fourth house. And at point, you're going to reach a crisis. So the fourth house is a point of crisis. Or it can lead absolutely to a point of crisis. 9 times out of 10. Things die in the fourth house. Things transform. Whatever is born in Aries, the first house, begins to die in the fourth house, and it takes another form, and then it reinvents itself in the seventh house, the other cardinal house, which belongs to Libra. And from there, it goes into the 10th house, Capricorn, and then it is externalized into a whole new being or personality different than who you were at 30 years old or 40 years old. Life begins at 40. That really is true. That really is true. We transform over time. And we see this beginning in the fourth house in Cancer. Cancer rules banking, commerce, taxes, accounting, all kinds of accounting practices, real estate, mortgage, banking. Cancer rules banking, and and some of the most famous bankers like J.P. Morgan, the financier, very strong Cancer in his birth chart, and he was a financial, he was the financier, you know, and he was fantastic in making money and managing money. He had a very strong Cancer. Cancer is fantastic for banking and commerce. Fantastic money sign. Cardinal. It is tied to the concept of self-preservation and security. So cancers will do anything to secure their survival financially and security. It feeds from Capricorn, the devil, the self-preservation principle. So these signs work together in tandem to maintain the status quo that will ensure their survival. Understand what I'm telling you? So, having said that, this is the concept of the fourth house. The fourth house determines and defines the foundation of who you are to be, and what are the mechanisms to get you there. Now, the fifth house is the house of Leo. With all that business mindedness and all that focus and succeeding and being ambitious and taking care of X, Y, and Z, here in Leo, you take a respite. You take a respite in Leo. The executive, managerial, gung-ho energy of Cancer, which is cardinal, begins to wane in Leo. And Leo, you're like, you know what? Okay, Cancer, I got you. We gotta work out and we gotta work and get things done. I get it. But you know what? All that work, let's play a little bit. Can we have a little fun? Let's have a little fun. Can we have a little fun? Let's have a little fun. That's Leo. That's the fifth house. The fifth house is the house of recreation, fun, beauty, sex, romanticism, the chase, the drama. It's Leo. The fifth house rules children, teenagers, and adolescents. It is the principle of procreation. The fifth house rules recreation of all kinds. For example, if you go to Donny Park in Pennsylvania, or Hershey Park, also in Pennsylvania, or Sesame Place, also in Pennsylvania. These are Leo places. You play theme parks, Six Flags Great Adventure, also in Pennsylvania and New Jersey. Because they share the same line. It's on that border. That's Leo. It's recreation, fun. Asbury Park in New Jersey. Leo. Leo. Big Vanilla Ski Resort in upstate New York. Leo. Beautiful Mount Airy Lodge, also in Pennsylvania. Leo. Leo. It's romance, love, romance, courtship, the cat and mouse chase, romantic idealism, the bold and the beautiful, which we have a soap opera created by William Bell on Channel 4, which hints on that primitive. There's a reason why he called it the bold and the beautiful. And if you know anything about the creator of that soap opera, William Bell, you'll understand why. So there is the Leo represents actors, acting, the stage, the theater, attractive looking people, soap operas. Remember, the theater and the soap opera industry is a cosmetic business. You can't be ugly and be in these mediums. You have to be beautiful and attractive to be in these mediums. It represents the glamorous, the beautiful, the ego, but also the falsehood and the arrogance and narcissism inherent in this sign. I gotta re-up. You know how I do. You know how I do. Okay. you know, hey, it is what it is, right? Well, yes. So again, let me just make it clear, that this is the fifth house, and Leo, and the sun. The sun rules Leo. It is Tipareth in the middle pillar of the Kabbalah. No, it defines the solar plexus of the human body, the union of God and man, spirit and flesh, but also the separation of them. When we die and the silver cord is broken, it is broken at the solar plexus, the seat of the soul. Not so much the kundalini, it is the solar plexus. Okay? So understand that having said that, okay, the fifth house represents the more downtime part of us. We are able to take a reflective look of our not only immediate situation, but also the long term arc of our circumstances and what led us to the immediate position in time that defines our reality. That, believe it or not, also belongs to Leo. Because Leo is such a self insulated, self inflating sign that in order for reality to hit, they almost have to be jolted into reality. And basically, with the Leo man and the Leo woman, they really do have to be jolted into reality. This jolt in reality, as it occurs at the personality level, is the same analogy at a mundane level. When we look at the circumstances, let's talk about a Leo circumstance. Pride, narcissism, and self-absorption, and lack of awareness of itself and those of others. Typical Leo traits. In order for the Leo person to be humbled and be awakened to the needs of its fellow human beings surrounding the Leo person, they may have to experience a certain level of humiliation. This level of humiliation will occur on a social level to reduce the Leo's person's energy down a peg or two. This is also defined by the fifth house. The fifth house, which opposes the 11th house, which is the house of Aquarius. The opposite of Leo is Aquarius. The individual rebel that goes against society, or the one which merges with the cosmos. Fidel Castro, don't forget, who conquered Cuba after defeating Batista, right? In 1950s. I forget the actual year. It's a typical example. A typical example, if you understand the story of Fidel Castro and Batista, and what made the takeover of Fidel Castro over Cuba, which made it communistic. And Fidel Castro, whom I had the privilege to have met, is also a Leo and quite the anarchist. God, may he rest in peace. May he rest in peace. I had no issues with Fidel Castro, the late Fidel Castro. But as an astrologer, understanding what he tried to do with Cuba, Okay, and Batista, why the injustices that he also did to his own people. Not that much that Fidel Castro didn't either, you know. But you have to look at the relative of things and the pros and cons. Which one is doing better and which one is doing worse? It's a lesser of two evils. But this is something that you can encounter with Leo. Because Leo can present to you a plan which may not necessarily be the plan that he has in mind, but may have a hidden agenda. Understand that the opposite polarity of Leo is Aquarius, the sign of the anarchist. So be careful with Leo because he might not be presenting to you everything sincerely as he presents it. Leo, Aquarius is the opposite of Leo, and that's the rebel, the antagonist, he who goes against society or he who fights for society. It really depends on what type of Leo you have. And having said that, understanding the relative position of your signs and placements in the fifth house of Leo and your own individual birth chart will also vary. This is the area of the horoscope where you can be completely contradictory or a follower or a leader. The fifth house also rules children and adolescents and teenagers. Now, the baby and child and toddler is defined by Cancer and Taurus and Gemini. By the time we reach Leo, the young boy, we're having a teenager in his 12, 13, 14. But before Leo, it's a child, the baby. Well, the baby being, of course, Aries. Okay? So the signs of the zodiac from Aries to Pisces symbolize gestational developments of the child or infant to adolescent to early adult to older age. It is a linear progression, and the 12 signs of the zodiac and the 12 houses of the zodiac symbolize these early childhood and also gestational development up and up to gerontological age, old age. Okay, these are measurements that can be clearly delineated, and they are in the field of mental health, social work, and the humanities. These measures and cycles have already been calculated. Astrology is not bringing anything new, but astrology was the original progenitor of it, in which every other social science and conventional science has built on. We're not just the bastard children of the scientific community to be thrown and discarded and dismissed. We were the original progenitor and epigenesis, which all the other branches of social sciences have sprung forward. Even though we've been thrown onto the wayside, we shamans and astrologers, we know, we know the deal. Okay? Do you want to claim the credit? You claim the credit. But understand that we are here whether who takes the credit or not. We want to advance the condition of the human race. And there is a methodology in doing that. And there are two opposing forces. The good force that wants to advance the human race to reach divinity. And then there's the opposing force that wants to keep humanity enslaved and not reach their own divinity. So understand that we as astrologers and healers and shamans have a big job to do because there are principalities in high places that are non-human that want to make sure that humans stay enslaved and ignorant to their own divinity. And as astrologers, we are here to go, fuck you. We are going to help humanity advance and understand and realize their own divinity. And the horoscope is the beginning, but it's not the only beginning. There are other beginnings, depending on which system of philosophy you choose. But they all are connected. They all work together. They are all in tandem. Right? And it is important that you understand that. So the fifth house of Leo, is the beginning of the birthplace of the ego. It is here where we begin to develop a sense of identity and develop a sense of who we are. And we're done with part two.